the best bang for these cars are always going to be proper suspensions.
P versus K.
K all day.
So 991 GT3 versus the EG. All right, just everything we talked about. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. This is Ryan Novak. We're gonna talk about his EG here. All right, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time.
You betcha.
Let's talk about this EG you got here. What year is it?
It's a 92.
92.
Yeah.
And how long have you owned it?
Over 10 years, I think.
Wow, over 10
Something
years.
like that, yeah.
I saw your Instagram, and you're calling it a high school project?
Yeah, all the cars we do are high school projects. Yeah, when you take a beater and try to make it fast, it's a high school project. So Nissan Skyline guys, you are the same. It's all the same, whether it's a Honda or anything else. You're modifying your car, it's a high school project. Yeah.
Very cool. So before we get into the car, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into the hobby and also how you got into driving?
So I got into cars back in the late 90s, and at the time I was in Chicago, and we used to go to the street races, and I had a little EG back then, maybe 97, 98, and couldn't afford a swap back then, so I was single cam and broke, you know, and drag racing on the stock Steelies. A few years later, did a swap, ended up doing a turbo, and that was pretty much it back then before Fast and the Furious came along. There wasn't a bunch of crowd or anything like that, and then after that movie happened, that's when everything went south. A couple years later, I moved to California. A friend of mine that I met out here took me to Buttonwillow, and I was hooked. He had a 99 Civic Si Coupe, and he actually picked me up. I was at a wedding, so I went to the track in my tuxedo, and it was awesome. So I got hooked ever since then and started building road race cars after that.
What other cars have you owned beside Hondas?
Oh, geez. Well, I've had EG, I had a turbo, H22 Turbo Accord, CRX, a couple of EKs, two S2000s, I had two S13s, I had an R33 GTR, GT3, 911, a GC with all the newer, you know, STI parts on it. I had a GC. I have a new VA STI, or not new, but you know, last generation. I had a Starion, like same thing as a Conquest. Fuck, I don't know, man. I can't remember.
Cars.
It's like girlfriends.
Do you have a favorite car out of those?
Out of all the cars, have always been Hondas because
Okay.
they've been the easiest to build. Parts are crazy available, and there's a lot of room to work on them. And so, worst car I ever worked on was probably Subaru. Motors obviously don't hold up, and there's not a ton of room in that. And then I would say probably the RB stuff like Nissan, you know, 32, 33, 34 is pretty horrible to work on as well. Hence why I got rid of those cars. Getting older, and I don't have the time to around with them anymore. So I keep it simple, go with the Hondas, and I'm that guy still driving a 90s car.
Fast forward, you got into an EK, right, before the EG?
I had a Civic Type R. I basically parted that car out. I got rid of all the interiors, sold it. The B16B is probably one of the worst motors. If anyone's ever driven them, you know it's just as fast as a single cam D series. So I got rid of that and put a K-swap in it. After a while, I just got tired of driving right-hand drive. It was messing with my head for the track, so ended up selling the shell to my buddy Frank that owns JRZ North America for a set of JRZ RS coilovers. And then him and I from there built basically two of the same car together, and we kind of changed the game and the spring rates and the way Hondas worked and turned and alignments and stuff like that, because back in the day everyone was using like 1,000-pound spring rates in the rear to make the car rotate, and the back of a, let's say, hatchback is 600 pounds, and people putting 1,000-pound springs, obviously it's, you know, it's like a hardtail. So Frank changed that game, and we just started doing it for maybe a year or two and just figured out like what spring rates worked best and what alignment worked best, and we just had so much fun with it, and a bunch of people climbed on board, and Frank sold a bunch of shocks to the Honda guys, and in fact I think JRZ, one of their biggest sellers at that time, was all Honda stuff.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So did you guys ever figure out what ring works best on these cars?
Yeah, there's an easy sub 2 recipe that could be had on these. You know, 158, 159 all day long. It's really not that scary. I mean, you see these guys like, posting videos of their car where they're like the back wheel's just not drooping. That's not good. That's, can I say that? So obviously you want, travel in the suspension. And so with the higher spring rates, and you're not going to get that if it doesn't have droop travel and helper springs and all that good stuff. So you could build a 90s Honda very easily with, I'd say, all the money on suspension and not in the motor.
Yeah.
Do it the other way around.
But what about the spring rates? Did you have like a general idea of where the spring rate should be?
For EG, EK, DC2, I think even EFs as well, for like, let's say a street setup with like a 3-inch blade in the front. Obviously you don't want to go beyond that because, it's going to start pulling the front down a little bit more, but typically like 900 to 950 in the front and around like 700 to 750 in the rear. If you got a little more aero, you could probably go up 50 pounds in the rear. Once you start getting into, high horsepower, heavy aero, then the spring rates almost triple. So I can't say the spring rates for that stuff because you got to do your own homework at that point. Yeah, I mean, you could turn these cars into absolute beasts. The best bang for these cars are always going to be proper suspension. So don't spend 7-8K on a motor swap. Spend 5-6K on your suspension and it'll go a long way.
I guess we can show the car. Was it bone stock when you got it?
Yeah, when I got this car, it was bone stock. I got it from a friend of mine, Brandon. I don't remember what I picked it up for. It was like $900. But yeah, I got it and tore it down the first day. The boys, we used to have guys night here, so the boys would come over and, put the work in, start pulling interior out, motor out, all that stuff. And I had the roll cage. Chris Eimer's been my guy for all my roll cages. He's the guy who does Dai Yoshihara's drift cars and all that good stuff. So he was kind enough to do a couple roll cages for me. When the cage was almost done, I had this idea one morning when I woke up. I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to run a 275-15 on this car, and the only way to do it is to go with a wider kit. So I ended up getting this Pandem kit. And it looks like, with these guys with the Infinities put on their cars now and these like hood rat street race car meet things, but it serves a purpose for my setup, obviously, because I don't like the 240 over fender flares. Those things look so cheesy to me. But yeah, we did, fender liners for it and all that good stuff.
So you do have to run a spacer, right, to fit a...
Yeah, to clear the arm.
Okay.
So...
And what's the wheel size?
It's a 15. I think this one's a 15 by 11.
Oh, they make a 15 by 11?
Yeah, I think you can even get a 15 by 12.
Jeez.
And then this has two 75s on it.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. While we're here, I see the AP Racing calipers. Are those, I see ASR on it, the brand on it.
Yeah.
Those are ASR brakes or kit?
Yeah, it was like a kit they made for EG, EK, DC2. It was cheap setup, you don't really need a lot of brake for this car. I mean, you could even get away with DC2 Type R or Civic Type R fronts with like a DTC 90 hawk pad, and it works just as good, Obviously, these are lighter, and I really don't go through pads too much with this setup. So for me, the offset was that.
Okay. What pads are you running now?
These are DTC 90s.
Okay. How do you like the 90s? I've never tried the 90s.
They're a bit aggressive.
Okay.
But you really don't do a lot of braking in this car unless, you're coming into sunset or sunrise, you get all your braking done at high speed. So it does what it needs to do, and it doesn't lock up. There's no ABS in this car. The rears, Magic setup is always leave street pads in the rear. If you're going any more aggressive than a street pad, you're doing the wrong thing. And
it's going to lock up, right?
It's going to lock up. You're going to find yourself drifting off. That would be another thing I'd recommend. Don't go a stage above street in the rear. And they last forever, too. Yeah. So
continuing on to the rear, we already talked about the pads and brakes. What kind of sway bar are you running in the rear?
So in the rear, I'm using a 32 hollow ASR.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the front sway bar, GSR.
GSR, okay.
Yeah, so you don't want anything stiffer, at least with these spring rates. Type R's too thick, so you want to get rid of that smaller bar. And I use the same concept with my all-wheel drive cars as well. Okay. Go with the smaller bar in the front. thicker in the rear so that car negates, oversteer.
The tire is, I see that 225 in the rear.
Yep, so the rear is 225 and the rim, I believe, is 15 by 8 in the rear.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you like the balance, 275 and 225s?
I mean, it's the opposite of rear-wheel drive, right? So you'd want that stagger. You could get away with the square setup, 225s, and it's cheaper that way because you can rotate your tires at the track day. But, when you're going balls out, having that wider tire up front just makes it easier to, go over the crest, let's say Phil Hill, or just going through Riverside flat-footed with no worries. It just grips and grips and grips.
Yeah. Obviously, JRZs, as we talked about.
Yep.
Those are RS Pro, right?
Yep.
Two-way.
Yep.
How do you like those? Obviously, you love them, right?
I only run JRZs and on the track cars. Before I've had the regular RS, which was a non-external reservoir, just compression and rebound. I had them on for 9 years. Never had them rebuilt. They never leaked. They did the job just fine. In my other Hondas, I've had the 1231s. They're, again, the difference in suspension is day and night. Obviously, the higher you go up, having someone to be there that knows what they're doing. Frank was always with us. I have no idea how to do those settings, but he did. And, just going through the bus stop with a good set of JRZs is equivalent to like watching a trophy truck go through a set of whips and it's not even upset. You don't even know you're driving over a curb, So that's
everything
a plus.
up.
Yeah.
So are these custom valve JRZs now, or are they out of the factory?
These are custom.
Okay.
I actually got them from my friend Mike. He had them on his car, God, forever. He had that black DC2. I don't know if you remember Donut.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he got rid of his car basically, and so I traded him my non-reservoir and then gave him some cash for these. But these were rebuilt, I'd say probably 5 years ago with the custom sauce. Yeah.
Got it. Man, there's just so much to see. There's so many details in this car.
Yeah, too much.
I see that this is a polyglass.
Yeah, it's polyurethane the whole way.
The whole way, okay,
Yeah.
Wow. Straight from UK, huh?
Yep.
Wow. The aero you have, is this all custom?
I added some stuff to it. The kit had, like all this stuff was Lumalite,
Okay.
which was pretty funny. So I just had it all done in carbon. Had a lot of stuff in this car done in carbon. I mean, doors are carbon, roof, trunk, hood, you name it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But you painted everything to kind of match
Yeah,
it.
but you can see it in the inside. I left
yeah.
it raw, but
And obviously you have the front splitter as well. We'll show in a minute.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Can I open the door?
Yeah.
Very nice. Very clean. Tell me about the, I guess without showing the engine, we kind of know that it's a K24 or a K engine of some sort.
Yep.
Can you walk us through the wiring?
Sure.
Very clean wiring.
So currently, I'm switching out from a Series 1 AM ECU, and I'm putting a Honda in, so that's why these things are hanging down. Currently turning the car into something a little bit different, but don't have the time these days. But yeah, so basically, Rywire did all this stuff, the PDM, all the wiring way back in the day. I don't even know if he offers that service anymore, to be honest with you.
He's too busy, probably.
Yeah, he's building crazy stuff now. But, yep, it's a AEM CD7, I think.
Yeah.
And PCI makes the dash. Brian, and yeah, other than that, it's pretty much bare bones.
Okay. You said you were redoing the wiring right now?
No, I'm just changing the ECU out.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, so these wires are just kind of hanging right now.
Oh,
But
so
otherwise, it goes up and you can't see it.
Okay, so you had the AM early,
Yeah, the original one. It
I
was
see.
like,
the V2, V1.
it was V1
Oh,
from
wow.
like 2009 when I bought it.
So you're going Infinity now.
No,
Something else?
Honda.
Oh, Honda.
I've had
yeah.
it. I just, you know,
Got it.
changing it up. I haven't touched this car. Honestly, I haven't touched this car in a long time, and it's been sitting, and so a lot of the stuff's outdated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're going from I mean, obviously V1 is really old technology, but is there a reason why you're going from standalone to Honda?
Well, if anyone has ever owned an 8AM ECU on their Honda, they know that it doesn't start up right away. You got to crank it a few times. The Honda just starts up. Plus, I had to have custom stuff made to have the CD7 work with a version 1 ECU, and it just, I wanted to bring it to maybe today's standards compared to 2009 standards. So that's the reason why I'm swapping out the ECU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Obviously, we see the carbon we talked about. It looks like Kevlar, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we make these, not in-house, but I have them done. So I have a mold if you guys ever need it for
Really?
EG, EK.
Okay.
We got some, baby.
Wow. EK hatch?
Yep.
Wow.
No coupes, no DC2s, no DAs, don't ask.
Just the hatchbacks.
Just the EG and EK hatchbacks.
Okay.
That's it. Yep.
What about the doors?
The doors are, I believe these are Cybon, the carbon
Okay.
doors. Yeah.
Gotcha. I see that you have a quick disconnect or quick release for the doors.
Yep.
That's neat.
To get in and out of the trailer.
Oh, so how much does the car weigh?
The car weighs without driver, and I think 5 gallons of gas. It's like 1,800 and some change. So it's pretty light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much power does it make now?
Well, I pulled off the ITBs, but prior to, it's just, whatever the stock K20 makes, which is like, what, 220, something like that, 230, depending on what dyno you're on. To be honest, I don't even know, is that number right? I don't know what K20s are.
I think that's about right. I don't know too much
Nothing
about
like
K20s.
astonishing,
Right. So, and you were telling me that the PB on this car is what again? I'm sorry?
The best we did in this car was like 4 years ago or 5 years. It was like a 154.
Yeah.
And then we had like a crash that day. The front splitter doesn't move, and it took a lot of stuff with it when we went off. So I had it repaired, put it back together, and just kind of forgot about it for a few years, And then I took it to Super Lap this year. Tires are super old. They got dry cracks on the side and stuff like that, but it's still good. It ran a 158, I think was the best time. And yeah, it's a decent car, It's,
Yeah, that's quick.
Yeah.
Well, 54 is quick.
54 is hauling, yeah, for sure.
And then you had, not exactly the same color, but actually that one was gray, but you had a really nice EK.
Yeah, I had an EK. That car was pretty wild. Yeah, so that car was supercharged, K20 and K24. Had some pretty serious aero on it. Had a sequential gearbox. God, I think the tire size was like a 18 in the front with like a 315. In the rear was, I think, a 245, which, by the way, was too much tire. I think I would have been better with a 225.
Really?
But that car was a beast. It was like a shifter car. It just did everything well. And then you put a K24 in it, and then it ruins everything, So, but I got rid of that car because it was a love-hate, with that car. I should have left it alone when it was simple. But I wanted to push the envelope, and it ended up, just making me lose interest in it after a while.
So you had some other engine before the K20?
Yeah, so I had a K24 built with cams and all that good stuff, and it made about 600 at Church Dyno out here in Wilmington. And the first maybe 10 minutes, it just started blowing out of the catch can, so we shut it down. So that was a disappointment, and we ended up just putting a stock K20 in it and having the supercharger making 420 horsepower, and that thing was plenty fast even with that. So it seems to be the magic number for Hondas is don't go above 420 turbo or supercharged, and they last for a long time, because we had a good 4 years out of that motor.
Wow.
And in fact, I think it's still going, because I sold that car and it's in Jamaica, and the guy's still driving it. So
Jamaica, wow.
yeah.
And that car did a 40, I'm sorry, what was that again?
I think the fastest that car went was a 148 or a 146 with James Houghton. He came out from Canada to help us do suspension on that car, and he was able to get it piloted pretty quick. And then, having kids and all that stuff, I just sort of lost interest in, because it's not a car or a setup where you could just put that car away for a while, put it in the trailer and go race. I mean, that car had to be maintained all the time, so.
Will this EG become that level, you think?
No,
Okay.
no, because once it does, it's not fun anymore, I'd rather just go to the track and have fun instead of chasing, numbers. And next year someone's faster, and the next year someone's faster. It's like electric cars,
That's the,
Cybertruck just came out. Next year, there'll be another truck. You're just chasing, So I want to go to the track, have fun, and keep it simple,
That's a really, really strong and good message. So I gotta ask you, EG versus EK.
My personal opinion, I like EK interior better because I'm a bigger guy, I'm 6'1", and I fit in that car a lot better. Weight-wise, EG, obviously, you have the advantage. Other than that, I don't know. I think there's a little bit more room in the engine bay. The EK makes things easier. But overall, I think, I'm like that trout that goes back when it goes to die. Like, this is what I started with, and this is what I end with. This is like, no matter how many cars I've had and the crazy stuff, and I mean, I've had Ferraris, I had 911. This is still like the coolest car I've ever had. So
Very cool. See the carbon cowl too. That's nice. So this is carbon as well?
yeah,
So
and
everything's
all this
carbon.
is polyurethane. So
You lost all the weight from the top,
yeah,
basically. That's awesome. Man, so clean too. Love it. Here comes the engine. All right, guys, here it is. Wow.
yeah. So I'm reconstructing it. I used to have individual throttle bodies and all that good stuff on it, so I'm taking that off, and I've had it for a long time. And so I'm just going to put a supercharger on it, do the same thing I did before with the EK, just keep it simple, make about 420 on it, and drive the heck out of it.
What kind of supercharger?
It's a Craftworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the best one in your opinion?
I don't know. I mean, it's the one I've used in the past. I think it's like a C38 90, something like that. But I haven't had any issues with it. I mean, we ran the hell out of it. And yeah, so I don't have anything bad to say.
Gotcha.
Stock K20R.
K20R?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And what kind of transmission?
So this, I believe, is a PPG that James over at Ghostwork put together.
Okay.
It's been a long time since it was built. It's either, I don't remember if this is the one that had the Gear X or not, but I was having some diff issues, so I had OS Geiken put in. I had a Cusco in there, it was nice, but I was having some issues with the driveline, so James freshened it up. And I don't remember the gear set in it, honestly, but it's not stock. It's either the Gear X or it's a PPG, one of those two.
How do you maintain it so clean?
I also don't drive the car every day, and it's in my shop, and so it doesn't get that dirty.
Gotcha. Oh, man, it's so clean. I'm guessing it was all painted at one point.
Yeah, this
Right?
car was Phantom Gray.
Gotcha.
The worst color you could possibly buy. That was actually the color of my first EG, was Phantom Gray. They were dirt cheap. No one wants that car,
So we got the harnesses from, I guess, it says K-Tune.
Yeah,
but-
this harness is from K-Tune. This is
Okay.
like the off-the-shelf one.
Gotcha.
Nowhere near as good as the Rywire one, but I think at the time when I had gotten this, Ryan was so busy and didn't have time to build me one.
Got hot sport mount, JRZ, carving strut bar. How do you like the carving strut bar?
It's okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's very shiny.
It is. It is. I don't think it's you know, compared to, I mean, hindsight, I should have brought the roll cage in here. I just didn't think I was going to go that far with it, you know. Yeah. But obviously for rigidity, that would be best. Me, this is more of like street cars, so I'm not trying to be king of the hill out there, you know.
Right.
So.
And do you remember what kind of brakes your brake master you're in?
So the brake booster, I believe, is a DC5, and then it has a DC2 master.
And what kind of radiator is that? CSF?
Yeah, so I got this one through Ryan at Rywire way back when.
Is it beefy?
Yeah, it's really beefy. We made a shroud, so no air goes around it, on top of it, below it, so it's ducted well.
Very cool. And you still got power steering?
Yep, had to. So the magic with this is this power steering pulley, I don't even know if you can get it anymore. This is the old Jackson Racing supercharger pulley. And so it bolts right up to the Honda deal, and it, you know, you don't have to cut your hood out too much, you know?
Yeah.
It's way shorter. But I think that's been discontinued forever, but you might be able to look it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Man, everything's so clean. You're running 91 pump fuel?
Yep.
On this? Okay. Just a bone stock setup, right?
The motor's bone stock, just because they last the longest, you know?
Right.
At least in my experience, because, man, I've gone through more motors probably than anyone has in road racing Hondas, just having them built. Stock ones, I'm okay with power, you know? It's like, I'll deal with that as long as the car starts the next day.
Right. I don't know if you guys see the exhaust manifold. That's insane. We'll get a close-up. So Ryan has a lift, and he was nice enough to lift the car for us. So let's start with the front. This is looks like carbon honeycomb composite.
Yeah, so this is a friend of mine works at the Mojave Airplane Wrecking Yard.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a floor out of, I think it's like a 747. Yeah.
That's cool. Nice. Okay. And then that's a Moroso pen.
Yep.
A fluid damper. And then this is what's really crazy. Wow. I've never seen a titanium manifold in person. So is this all custom?
So it's a Blocks header that was given to me years ago. Didn't fit all that well. I had to modify it to work, and it was like a 2.5 flange. I had to put a 3 on it. And so it's a hybrid of sorts, but it's originally a Blocks setup.
Interesting. So. I didn't know they made a titanium one.
Me neither.
Wow.
But you know, it's like your typical. It seems like everyone stole our crew's design, you know, from way back in the day.
Right.
Like that's what K-Tune, same thing.
So. Okay. So you got a 3-inch leading to
3-inch, all the way out.
Nice.
And it just exits through the diffuser.
Nice. Well done. That is cool. 275. They're really clearing the knuckle. Actually, it's got some room, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely, you know, it's like go 5 mil in, but why? Because I could probably go out even more.
Yeah, yeah. We got PCI. Obviously, JRZ up there. Man, this car is really clean underneath too.
Thanks.
It's just everything we talked about, but it's a different perspective. What are the drive shafts?
Those are insane shafts.
Okay.
The Hot Sport ones work fine, but I think I burned my last one, so these have been sitting around on the shelf forever. They were actually backups to my EK. So.
Gotcha. All special bolts too. Does this help at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculously loud. However, it actually works better here. But when I did this, I was in a rush. But if you ever go straight pipe, putting your resonator here makes a world of difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's almost like a muffler in itself.
Wow. Okay. All right. Obviously, JRZ, the blade type, ASR. Spherical bushings. And diffuser, is it all custom?
No, this is the old PCI one.
Oh, is it?
They don't make it anymore.
Oh, very cool.
I don't think it does absolutely anything, but it does something. Probably keeps the bumper from parachuting,
Right.
you know, a little bit, but.
Right. Man. This is so cool. Made in the USA, guys. Ryan was saying that this is a new tank.
Yeah.
Extremely clean.
Anybody knows EGs knows you got to replace that tank.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That and the strappings. I mean.
Oh, they go bad, huh?
Strappings always go bad on the EGs. The car is old as you know.
What kind of pump do you have in there?
I believe it's the Type R pump, like a 190 or something like that.
Okay.
But I'll be putting in a dual setup when I put the charger on.
Gotcha. Ryan, so what does sub 2 mean to you?
Depends what year you ask me, you know. Sub 2 back in like 2005 seemed impossible. You know, if you were doing a 203, that was pretty quick in these cars, you know.
Yeah.
Sub 2, 2010 was fast, you know.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I did a 159, I was just ecstatic, you know. Obviously in this car, but there's drivers that are way faster than I usually have my friends drive, and it took me probably a year just to catch up to them. So they had already did their sub 2s in this car. These days, cars are so technically advanced, sub 2 doesn't seem like a big thing anymore, but maybe sub 150 will be the next thing, you know. But sub 2's still pretty quick to today's standards, you know, especially if you're a novice driver. I don't think you're going to be able to show up in, say, a GT3 if you're not a skilled driver and break a 2-minute. You know, I think that there's still a good thing about going sub 2. So in these cars, if you could do sub 2, I'd say you're moving pretty quick, no matter the setup, whether you're B, K, whatever it may be, H series. So it's a respectable time, that's for sure.
B versus K.
K all day.
Understeer or oversteer?
Neither.
What things about life do you learn through cars?
Patience, for sure. You got to work a little harder to buy nicer things, you know. It's the old saying, buy once, cry once. I don't like wasting time. If I'm going to build something, I don't want to take it halfway finished to the track. Patience, I guess.
You currently own is it a 991 or 997?
991.
991.
Yeah.
991 GT3.
Yeah.
So 991 GT3 versus the EG.
Well, depends who you're asking, you know. I would rather get in this car and drive it, hit a wall, and walk away and mentally be okay, you know. My GT3, I'd probably be disappointed with myself for years on end. I've had friends that drove in the Cup Series that got in this car and just couldn't understand how fast this thing was in tight turns, and so it's a different experience. But this car, it's, you know, it is a high school project, so you don't feel bad beating it up so much. But it still puts a smile on your face when the engine's revving high, you know, so that never gets old.
Any shout outs?
Oh, let's see. Shout outs would be, well, these days I don't really go to the track much because of the kids, thanks. I'd say big shout outs have been, you know, Frank at JRZ. He's like my Chinese brother, you know. And then Oscar Senior Jackson's helped me a ton. Not so much with this car, but my other EK and even my GT3. JHP, Evasive, all friends in the industry. Just when I need parts or hard to find things, they've been able to get it for me.
Okay. Any final thing you want to say?
I don't want to be offensive, so maybe not, you know. I would say probably final thoughts for me is whatever you're building, have fun with it. That's like the main reason why you're at the track, you know. Don't take yourself too serious. Stay the f*** out of people's way when they're trying to pass.